You already know that attraction isn't a lottery ticket you scratch hoping for luck. It's a pattern you build, habit by habit, until your presence speaks before you say a word. When a man becomes genuinely attractive, he doesn't need to chase, persuade, or perform. His life broadcasts value on a frequency that can't be faked. Women feel it, men respect it. You carry yourself like someone who has options because you do, and because you live like your time matters. That isn't arrogance, it's alignment. Tonight vamos a encender esa frecuencia en ti. No with tricks, not with gimmicks. With 7 habits that every truly attractive man follows until they become second nature. If you lean in and actually live them, you'll notice something subtle and powerful. You'll stop negotiating for attention and start inviting investment. That shift is everything. The first habit you cultivate is ruthless respect for yourself expressed through standards. Attraction dies wherever standards die. Standards are the invisible architecture of your life. What you allow, what you refuse, what you walk away from even when your emotions beg you to stay. You stop outsourcing your worth to someone else's mood. You stop treating access to you as a right. You stop rewarding inconsistency. You choose your friendships, your routines, your diet, your work, your intimacy, like a curator chooses art, deliberately, with an eye for what fits the gallery of your life. When you live by standards, you say no without hostility and yes without neediness. You no longer bend yourself into shapes that make you unrecognizable just to keep someone from leaving. If a message goes unanswered for a while, you don't panic and flood the conversation with emojis to keep the connection alive. You breathe, you return to your schedule, and you show with your behavior that your day has a spine. This habit makes your attention scarce, and what's scarce becomes valuable. People sense that your time comes with a filter. It doesn't make them fear you, it makes them respect you, because your self-respect teaches them how to treat you. Self-respect sounds abstract until you make it physical. It's the hour you protect for training when you're tempted to hit snooze. It's the clean kitchen you keep because chaos outside becomes chaos inside. It's the money you choose not to spend to impress, and the money you do spend to grow. It's the boundary you set with the friend who only calls when he needs something, and the grace you still offer him without letting him drain you. It's ending a date when the vibe is off, not because you're playing games, but because your energy is not a public fountain. When a woman meets a man like this, she doesn't just notice it, she relaxes into it. Standards are safe. Standards predict who you'll be tomorrow. Standards remove the anxiety of a man who morphs to please. Your no becomes a promise, and your yes becomes a gift. The second habit you live is purpose first, everything else second. Not because romance doesn't matter, but because romance dies in the vacuum of a man with no direction. Human beings are drawn to meaning like plants to light. A man on mission moves differently. He has a calendar with real commitments, not just empty hours waiting to be filled by whoever texts first. He sets quarterly goals, not just weekend plans. He knows what he's building and why it matters. The magnetism is not in the hustle for hustle's sake. It's in the clarity. Your day has lanes. When you speak about your work, your craft, your studies, your business, your training, you aren't auditioning for approval. You're simply sharing the route you've chosen. People lean in because clarity is rare. You can feel the difference between a man drifting and a man driving. One constantly asks, "What do you want to do?" The other says, "Here's my plan. You're welcome to join for this part." That simple leadership switches the frame. You're no longer competing for a place in someone else's story. You're inviting them, if it fits, into yours. Purpose makes you less reactive. You don't spiral when a conversation cools for a day because your day is already hot with work. You don't overinterpret silence. You understand that most things are not a verdict, they're a moment. Your mission steadies your emotions. You can be warm and attentive without being available on command. That's not aloofness, it's gravity. It's the quiet message. I value you and I value my path. If you align with it, amazing. If you don't, I'm still moving. This is the energy that women call secure. It's not that you never feel doubt, it's that doubt doesn't drive. The third habit you adopt is mastery of your attention as a scarce resource. Your attention is currency. When you spend it carelessly, you become broke in ways that don't show on a bank statement. People line up to cash your focus. Apps, alarms, endless scrolls, and yes, the chase of someone who hasn't decided if they even want you. If your attention is always available, your value isn't visible. You train yourself to give attention with intention. When you text, you mean it. When you listen, you actually listen. When you put the phone away, it's away. You respond at times that align with your priorities. You don't punish with silence, you honor your schedule. The paradox is beautiful. By being less available by default, you become more present when you're present. That depth is rare. Most people are halfway everywhere. You start being fully somewhere. This habit immediately elevates your attractiveness because it activates a simple truth about human desire. We value what is guaranteed. That doesn't mean you manipulate by withholding. It means you stop donating constant validation without a reason. You let reciprocity breathe. If she invests, you meet her. If she withdraws, you don't chase the withdrawal. You return to your life. The message underneath is powerful. I am generous with my energy, but I am not careless with it. Your interactions become crisp. Compliments mean something because you don't hand them out like flyers. Invitations land because you don't send 10 backups when one is ignored. You end conversations while they're still lively instead of milking them to death. You leave room for anticipation to grow. Curiosity is oxygen to attraction. You create it by pacing your presence. The fourth habit you embody is owning the frame without forcing it. Every interaction runs on frames, the invisible rules that decide who sets the pace and who follows it. If you don't set your frame, you will be recruited into someone else's, often one where you feel like a contestant auditioning for approval. You stop doing that. You walk in with a quiet frame. I approve of myself. I am evaluating fit, not begging for it. You bring calm leadership to small moments. If a plan gets vague, you propose 2 specific options and choose one. If a conversation becomes chaotic, you slow it down with a grounded question. If a boundary gets tested, maybe a last-minute cancellation without consideration, you don't rage. You reset. No problem. Let's try another time when you can plan ahead. That's a frame. You didn't blame, you didn't cling. You simply demonstrated the rules of your world. Owning the frame also shows up in your emotional posture. You don't argue to win. You clarify to understand. You don't try to convince someone you're worthy. You live in a way that makes that conclusion obvious to those capable of seeing it. You don't rush to fill silences. You're comfortable letting a thought land. You're okay disagreeing politely. You don't perform status, you practice substance. Instead of telling long stories to impress, you ask better questions. You're not intense to prove you're a man. You're composed because you are one. That composure is not cold, it's warm steel. It allows humor to surface. It makes playfulness natural. You tease lightly without aimless sarcasm. You flirt in a way that invites, not pressures. You give people the gift of feeling safe in the presence of someone steady. The fifth habit you strengthen is emotional regulation and responsibility. Attractive men feel deeply, they just refuse to be ruled by every feeling. You develop the discipline to pause between impulse and action. When you feel jealousy spark, you don't launch accusations. You examine the trigger and communicate like a man who owns his reactions. When you feel anger rise, you don't text paragraphs. You go lift, run, breathe, and speak later with clarity. When you feel a high from early chemistry, you enjoy it without confusing it for commitment. You remember that trust is built in repetitions, not declarations. This maturity surfaces in how you handle tests. If she flirts with pushing your boundaries, you don't melt down or try to outgame her. You calmly mirror your standards. Either the vibe improves or the connection fades. Either outcome is acceptable because you are not here to manage someone else. Emotions to keep them from leaving. Emotional regulation also means you train your nervous system for stress. You take cold showers or step into challenging workouts not to be trendy, but to teach your body that discomfort doesn't equal danger. You work on your breath when anxiety tries to tell you that silence means rejection or that a slow reply means disaster. You stop treating your desire as an emergency. You learn to self-soothe instead of outsourcing that job to someone you barely know. This makes you a lighthouse, not a siren. People sense your steadiness like a subtle bass note in your presence. You're not perfect, you're practiced, and practice is attractive. The sixth habit you live is healthy mystery through selective disclosure. Mystery isn't manipulation, it's pacing. You don't unfold your entire life story in the first hour like a brochure. You reveal in proportion to investment. You choose stories that show parts of your world without trying to engineer a reaction. You leave room for questions to arise. You keep certain rituals sacred, your morning routine, your creative process, your exact plans for the week. Because not everything needs commentary. This isn't hiding, it's honoring your inner life. When someone doesn't have all the pieces, their mind leans forward. They wonder, they reach. That reaching is the beginning of pursuit. Selective disclosure also means you are intentional with flirting. You don't flatter like a fan, you observe like a champion. You notice details that matter, not generic traits anyone could see. You're not afraid to disagree gently. Agreement without edges is a blanket that smothers tension. You don't feed drama with equal drama. You dissolve it with clarity. You hold eye contact longer than comfort requires because you're comfortable. You don't need to narrate your confidence. It shows in the way you allow moments to breathe. That relaxation is rare in a culture that screams for attention. It's magnetic. The seventh habit you integrate is visible competence, body, craft, and character. Humans are wired to notice signals of capability. Evolutionary logic aside, it's simple. Competence reduces chaos. A man who can take care of himself physically, who can solve problems, who can follow through, becomes attractive because he lightens the load of life. You take your body seriously, not to chase an image, but to create a vessel you can trust. You eat to think clearly. You move to feel alive. You rest like it's a responsibility. Your wardrobe fits your frame and your context. Your grooming is consistent. None of this is vanity, it's respect. You remove what you don't use. You fix what's broken or you release it. Competence expands into your craft. You become noticeably good at something real. You put in the reps when no one's watching. You ask for feedback without defensiveness. Competence breeds calm. Calm breeds charisma. When you walk into a room with the quiet memory of promises kept to yourself, you don't need to posture. People feel an ease around you because you don't need to steal energy to feel alive. You generate your own. As these habits fuse, a powerful transformation begins. The man who once chased starts to be chosen. Not by everyone, and that's the point. Scarcity is not a trick, it's a byproduct of standards. You become a category of one to the right person because you stopped offering yourself as an open buffet to the wrong audience. You realize how much attraction depends on what you don't do. You stop setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. You stop answering tests with essays. You stop pretending your needs don't matter. You stop performing energy you don't have. Let's get practical and walk through scenes where these habits turn theory into oxygen. You're on a first date. Instead of telling your whole backstory, you share a slice. The project you're obsessed with this month. The book that cut your excuses in half, the city you want to explore next, and why. You ask her about the last decision she's proud of, not just her favorite travel spot. You mention that you've got an early training session, so you'll head out by 10. You don't try to kiss just to prove you can. You read the moment, you trust your sense. The whole time, the frame is the same. You're evaluating fit as much as she is. You're present enough to find out who she is. You don't. You respond meaningfully, then you go live. You allow gaps. When you reply, you advance the conversation with intention. A question worth answering, a planned suggestion with options, a call to action that turns talk into life. If momentum stalls, you don't keep pushing, you let it. Thursday 6 works. If not, tell me another. You disengage with warmth and continue your week. That decision is not cold, it's kind to both of you. It protects your energy and her freedom. Consider conflict. She cancels last minute again. You could attack, or you could articulate, I enjoy your company, and I plan my week carefully. If we're going to see each other, I need confirmed plans. No threats, no guilt trips, just truth with a door. Mature people appreciate doors more than walls. If she doesn't, the door becomes an exit for misalignment. Either way, you win because you stayed in integrity. Think about social settings. You tell a story when it adds, not to dominate airtime. You watch the room like a student, not a critic. You laugh easily. Someone teases you to test your edges. You smile and throw back a light jab, not to crush them, but to show you're not made of glass. You don't bond through complaining, you connect through curiosity. When these habits breathe together, they raise the bar on your micro choices. You limit your screen diet because doom scrolling drains the power you need to build. You schedule solitude to recalibrate because constant noise dulls instinct. You cultivate masculine friendships where iron sharpens iron. You invest in experiences that expand you, not just things that impress no one paying attention. That guardianship is irresistible to someone who values themselves, and it's repellent to someone who only values what they can extract. Let's address a common fear. Won't these habits make you too distant? Only if you confuse distance with depth. You are not withdrawing from intimacy. You're withdrawing from performance. You still flirt, you still text. The difference is that you do it from a full tank, not as a desperate attempt to fill an empty one. Women feel that difference immediately. One asks for rescue, the other invites relationship. The first drains, the second sustains. You might wonder where kindness fits in this picture. You apologize when you're wrong. You take responsibility for your part. You listen when feedback stings. You say thank you in full sentences. You never use your standards to belittle. You use them to build a life where care can actually thrive. You're the man who sends the made it home text, who remembers the detail she mentioned about her presentation, who celebrates wins that don't involve you. None of that is neediness. It's maturity. The difference is that you don't offer these gifts to buy affection. You offer them because they're true to you. That integrity is the rarest aphrodisiac on earth. Let's fold in the inner game beneath all of this, identity. You stop acting like an attractive man, and you start being one by deciding who you are and proving it to yourself daily. Identity is built with evidence. When you keep small promises to yourself, your reflection changes. You carry a different micro-expression. Your handshake has weight. Your nose stops trembling. You take longer breaths. You look people in the eye not to assert dominance, but because shame no longer lives in your chest. You forgive past versions of you who didn't know better because self-contempt kills growth. You speak to yourself like a coach, not a critic. You upgrade your environment so the default choices lead toward your goals. You make patience a practice, not a personality trait. You select partners who are aligned with your mission, not just your momentary loneliness. You stop negotiating your values for chemistry. Chemistry without compatibility is fireworks without a fire. Beautiful for a second, then darkness. Attraction that lasts is built on alignment. Alignment between what you say and what you do. Between who you are alone and who you are in public. Between the man you want to become and how you treat people on the way there. The reason these 7 habits work is not mystical. Each one reduces the gap between your image and your reality. That gap is where anxiety lives. Close the gap and your nervous system settles. You radiate a peace that doesn't look like laziness. It looks like capacity. People lean toward capacity because life is heavy. We're all searching for someone who can carry their own side of the load. Be that man first for yourself. The rest follows. There will be days you slip. You'll overtext. You'll say yes when you meant no. You'll chase a little because old grooves are deep. That's fine. The point is not perfection, it's recalibration. You catch yourself sooner, you return to standards quicker, you apologize to yourself without drama and get back to reps. The man who wins isn't the one who never falls, it's the one who stands up with more wisdom than he had yesterday. Keep a journal to track your micro wins. Boundaries held, workouts done, deep work sessions completed, conversations led with calm. Watch the evidence stack up. Evidence beats affirmations when it comes to identity. The more evidence you have, the less you'll need to speak about who you are. You'll just be it. As these habits become muscle memory, you'll notice the world mirrors back a different you. Invitations come from people who respect your time. Texts come with plans, not just dopamine pings. Dates feel lighter because you're not running a hidden script about worth. Some connections fade quietly. Let them. That's not loss, it's filtration. The ones who remain will be drawn to your rhythm. They'll invest without being chased. They'll communicate because that's how grown people love. They'll bring peace to your life because you brought peace to your own first. You'll also notice that your standards remove you from rooms that used to drain you, which frees your hours for mastery. Mastery compounds. What once took willpower becomes automatic. This is what I do becomes, this is who I am. You now stand at a useful edge. You can nod along to these ideas and return to the old loop, or you can pick one habit today and install it in the smallest possible way. Maybe it's a simple boundary with your phone, no notifications during your first 90 minutes of work. Maybe it is scheduling your training, like a meeting with a version of you you refuse to disappoint. Maybe it's saying no to someone who expects free access to your time. Maybe it's finishing the task you promised yourself you'd finish before you text anyone back. These are not grand gestures, they are levers. Pull enough levers and a life moves. If you want a reminder of why this matters beyond romance, remember this. The most attractive thing about you is the way you live when nobody is watching. That's the core every great relationship will be built on. Not your jawline, not your car, not your temporary hype. The way you talk to yourself in the mirror at 6 a.m. The standards you uphold when compromise would be easier. The purpose you return to when boredom tries to seduce you into distraction. The attention you direct at what matters. The frame you carry into chaos. The steadiness you bring when emotions spike. The mystery you maintain by having an inner life that doesn't require constant display. The competence you keep building out of respect for your future. When a woman senses that foundation, she doesn't just feel chemistry, she feels safety and challenge braided together. That combination is rare, and rare is irresistible. So here is the quiet vow you make to yourself as you close this video. From this day forward, you will not sell yourself for crumbs of attention. You will not chase what runs from your integrity. You will not flood silence with need. You will not abandon your mission to audition for someone's temporary affection. You will live by standards, move with purpose, invest your attention wisely, hold the frame with calm, regulate what you feel without denying it, reveal yourself at a pace that honors reality, and keep sharpening your competence until your presence doesn't need a commercial. You won't get this perfect, and you don't have to. You just have to keep choosing it. Because in the end, attraction isn't a trick to get her. It's a discipline to get you. The man you become is the prize you offer to the world. When you carry that truth quietly in your bones, you won't wonder if you're attractive. You'll watch your life reflected back to you with better conversations, cleaner connections, and a woman who doesn't just want you, but respects you. And when respect and desire meet, you won't have to ask if you're enough. You'll know because you built a life where the answer is obvious.